I'd like to call tonight's special regular meeting of council to order. Recommendation that the agenda for their special regular council meeting on April 7th, 2015 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councilor Cunningham, second by Councilor Niche. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, first up we have Bob Gruber and Sandra Greer representing the Prince Rupert Homecoming 2015 committee to discuss the Civic Center rental prices. Come on up.
I get delegated to do the talking.
And there's just a little green button here on your mic there.
Hey, good evening. I'm Barb Gruber. This is Sandra Greer. We are part of the Homecoming Committee, which is planned for the 14th to the 18th of May. We are hoping to bring in between 1,000 and 2,000 people for this event. We have charged a nominal fee because too much people just won't do it. And especially for those from out of town that have to pay airfare, etc., to get here in the first place. We met with the staff at the Civic Center, and we were, I have to say, a little bit shocked to know what the rental was. If we do bring in up to 2,000 people, the rental's going to be over $9,000 to set up on the Friday night, have the dance and banquet on the Saturday, and then take down Sunday morning. This is a lot more than we had actually budgeted for. We had no idea that our cost would be more than double what it was 5 years ago. At that time we paid $4,000 something, and now it's $9,391 approximately for the one night event. If we bring in approximately 1,000 people and only have to use the one room for seating everybody, the costs will go down to about $5,800. Now that's just a round figure, because not only do we have to pay for the rent, we have to pay for staff. And the staff figure is between $2,500 and $3,000 to have them help set up and take down, and they say they have to lay the blue plastic on the floor, etc. And it was suggested to us that we apply for a grant in aid, which we are like 6 months too late to do. We just found out about this. And we were wondering if it would be possible for the city to help us with the rent at the Civic Center, to deduct some money off. Now, the first time that we did the homecoming, we asked the city for $8,000 to help us. At the end of the event, we came back to City Council, we gave them back their $8,000, which is the first time anybody had ever done that, was to return money. If by any chance we do good, we could return the money to you, providing we have enough. We've only charged $100 a person. And do you want to give out those list of events? And this is for a 5 days of events. We're bringing horses and a buggy down from Smithers. We're going to have free horse and buggy rides for everybody. We have a wine and cheese party. We have the dance and banquet. We have a pub crawl. We have a golf scramble, and 5 days of hospitality.
Thank you.
We have gone out to the community, to different businesses, and asked if they can help with this, and we have received some funding. But it's just so much money for the one event when we've tried to keep the cost per person down. I mean, you can pay $65, $75 just to go for a one-night dinner and dance or something. Ours is 5 days, $100. And we're just trying to make it feasible for everybody to be able to come. Do you have anything to say?
Actually, the city offered $16,000 for the first one, but we only required 8. They gave us 8 to start with, and that was just for startup fees and postage and stuff like that. So.
Okay, questions from council? Sure. Councilor Ferguson?
I was wondering, I know that everybody had a extremely good time last time, but I was wondering why, if it's just for the Saturday night at the Civic Center, why you needed the Friday?
We need the Friday in order to set up all the chairs, tables, do the decorating, etc. And that is, it takes a lot to set up for that many people.
Then what were the staff going to do?
They were going to help. Plus, for decorating, the ceilings are very high in there. Apparently, they have to get a high up for some of the decorations, and we have to pay for that. And clean up. And it's $500 to have them lay the plastic on the floor. And there's insurance.
Other questions? Councilor Cameron?
Barb, how many people are going to be coming to this, approximately?
We're hoping, we're not there yet, we're hoping for 1,000, but we're really hoping for 2,000. When we did it 5 years ago, we had to cut off. We were at 2,000 and we still had people wanting to register, and the Civic Center holds 1,200 in the, which one? No, 1,200 in the arena and 1,000 in the gym. And we just had to cut off the list because putting that many people in really crowds it, you know, to get up and visit, which is what these people want to do. To get up, wander around and visit, you have to cut back on the number of tables and chairs.
So there's a good chance you'll have the same situation again where you'll be giving money back to the city?
If we are very cautious.
Thanks.
There is a chance, but I'm not saying that it definitely will happen. The cost of everything has gone up. Everybody gets a 10-ounce wine glass as a remembrance of the occasion. We have them etched with Homecoming 2015. Now there's over $5,000. Horse and buggies, a couple of $1,000. By the time we get the food, it is a lot of money. The last time we spent approximately $90,000 on food alone. And so it's the costs are, I mean, you know, you're not dealing with 200 people, you're dealing with either 1,000 or 2,000 people.
Okay, so what I'll do is we'll have our staff come with on our next agenda. We'll get something on there and we'll see what the options are, and we'll have council deliberate at that time. So we'll take a look at what we can do for you guys. And I was at the 2010 one and I had a great time myself too. So just because tonight we have our budget meeting, so we'll make sure we get through that, and then we'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. Does that work for you?
That's lovely. Thank you very much for considering it.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank
And
you.
don't forget to register.
Right. Register. Okay, so thank you very much. Moving on to item 6A, report from Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2015 budget final.
Thank you. Just some background. On February the 23rd, at the regular meeting of council, staff presented the 2015 budget. In that budget was included a recommendation for funding to community partners who had applied for grants through the Community Enhancement Grant Program. After consideration of all revenues, operating costs, and the grants recommendation, staff indicated that the budget shortfall for 2015 was $220,000, representing a mill rate increase of 1.9%. It was noted at that meeting and the next two regular council meetings that staff expected the proposed increase to change once the final property value assessments were released from BC Assessment Authority. Staff received the final property assessment values on March 30th. The result is a downwards change in assessment of $4 million. Having received the final assessed values, the impact is such that staff can now recommend a 2% increase in the mill rate to balance the 2015 budget. The result of this change will mean a homeowner with an average assessed value home can expect an increase of $38 for the year rather than $37 as was originally projected, or $1 more than projected on February 23rd. In order to complete the budget process and balance the budget, staff requires a resolution to approve the recommended rate increase. And just to note, after the presentation that we just heard, in attachment B, which is the contributions to community partners, in the top section under grants and aid, not the major grants, but the grants and aid, the bottom line says provision for later applicants, nominal amount, and if you look over to the far right column, it says $8,400 recommended in the budget of 2015. Council could have that option to provide, designate that to homecoming should they decide.
Okay, so there's two recommendations. So do the first one. That council directs staff to incorporate the recommended mill rate increase of 2% into the 2015 5-year financial plan bylaw and related 2015 property tax bylaw. Moved by Councilor Moore. Second by Councilor Cunningham. Okay, so discussion. Councilor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's really important for us to have a discussion before we vote on this motion, a discussion that's larger than simply raising taxes or cutting services. It's something I feel like a broken record. I've repeated that sentence so many times. But we all know that there's a lot of different ways to raise new revenues for the municipality that's outside of raising taxes. I'd like to instill a sense of urgency at this table. And I'd like to add an amendment that we direct staff to generate a revenue growth strategy for the municipality and report back. I realize the budget time is quite constrained from now until May, so I would think that the first meeting after May would probably be a reasonable time frame. But I think there's some really simple ideas that I would really like to see us entertain. Maybe not necessarily tonight, but ideas that the municipality can generate additional revenue without having to raise taxes and ease the burden that we've put on taxpayers, because we know we're already one of the least cost competitive jurisdictions in all of BC. And I personally would like to see that start trending in the opposite direction. Just some really specific ideas that I'm thinking would be good to have included. Just for exploration, I'm not saying we vote on each of these issues now, but the first being corporate naming rights for civic facilities. In the city of Duncan, they signed a 10-year, $100,000 a year naming rights deal for their recreation center with the local credit union. It's a very stable source of funding and not too many barriers to entry. Many municipalities across BC have attempted similar measures. Another issue, I know we've brought it up around the table before, but the city does currently have on its books quite a substantial amount of vacant residential lots. And I know that we have a contractor right now that's working on a land-based inventory for us. So what I'd like to have included in that is an inventory of the serviced residential lots that the city currently has on its books, and most likely they would be acquired through tax sale. But I think getting that land off the city's books, even just in small increments, not only would the basic supply and demand start to ease the pricing pressures that we're starting to experience here, but I also think that it would start to help ease the pressures that the housing market is currently facing. So with all of that said, I think that's I'd like to instill a sense of urgency that we've all talked about the port tax cap at length as being a constraint, but I think we can think broader than simply raising taxes or cutting services, because I know that none of us at this table have an appetite really to pursue either.
Councilor Liddell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second his amendment, and the reason I think we should look for generating some revenue. Any penny, any dollar we increase, it affects our local business. They are already striving. They can't compete with big stores, and it affects on the homeowners, rentals. Every time we increase home, and they have to increase their rent, and our rental people are already striving for that. So I think we should look for another avenues for the generating of some new revenue.
Just so everyone's clear, we have an amendment on the floor now, and the amendment is for staff to come with a report for revenue growth strategy that incorporates some of the specific ideas that Councilor Moore was saying. But I think all in all, a strategy about how we could generate new revenue outside of these major, bigger projects coming. Is that some kind of what you're saying? Okay, so that amendment's on the floor, so we can discuss that amendment. Anybody else has any, Councilor Cunningham?
I'm for anything that's going to reduce tax load on the residential and business communities. You know, it's, this town's been burdened with higher taxes every year, constantly, and if we can find any way of alleviating some of those taxes on the residential and business community, I'm all for it, and I think it's I really think it's something that we were put here to do, and residents of this town wanted a change, and this is one of the changes, looking at other alternate ways of getting money. And I think it's not just something we should look at, it's something we have to do. It's something that people of this town constantly have to go and dig deeper and deeper with utilities, taxes, everything, you know, user fees, everything are going up, and, you know, it's a double whammy, triple whammy all the time, so I really think that it's our job to look at any alternative to try and stop raising taxes.
Councilor Nish?
Councilor Thurkson
Oh,
first.
Councilor Thurkson.
I'll go next.
Okay, Councilor Thurkson?
Oh, you're done? Oh.
One of the main reasons why I ran in the election was because of taxes, and I think that, you know, this year we, you know, being thrown into it in December, I don't think we had a lot of time to work with what, but I do think that in the next 3 years we are going to move towards bringing down costs as much as we can. So, you know, I'm all about exactly what you're saying, Mr. Wino, about trying to, you know, come up with other ways or strategies to get some more flow of money into us, because that is one of the main reasons why I went, because I was tired of the taxes going up in extreme amounts. This year, it's for the average home $38 if we approve this budget, and I think that's it's 38 more than I'd like, but it's at least a reasonable amount of money compared to hundreds of dollars, which in the past we've dealt with. So you know, I'm all about trying to, if we have to rename the Civic Center, or maybe not rename it, but add some sort of sponsorships, I think that's a great idea.
Councilor Thurkson and then Kenny, and then Cunningham, do you have what to add?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Thurkson?
I just, how can anybody oppose an idea that is, that we should try to find other ways to raise money instead of by taxes? I would think that that would probably be a dandy thing to do. I'm just concerned that we not spend our time spending a lot of staff time looking for $5,000 or $10,000. I mean, we're applying for grants, which we always have done. And I don't think there's any grants that we've missed. Nobody's brought them up to this budget and said we've missed any grants. I think that selling land will, depending if somebody's going to build on it or not, will not alleviate much pressure either on city taxes, because an untaxed lot, empty lot, doesn't raise much in taxes. It's the value of the lot with the house on it that raises the taxes. And so I'm not in favor of creating selling city land without a plan, because I think we don't have a whole lot of it. And most of our land is owned by the provincial government or by the federal government. We don't have a lot of land. And so we need to make sure that we are looking after our housing responsibilities before we put things on up for sale. And so I think that it's always a good idea to go look at alternatives. I think it's what I honestly don't want to do, though, is waste staff's time looking for alternatives that when they should be looking after the bigger projects, which are going to be the bigger bang for our buck. And so we need to deal with Watson Island. Dealing with Watson Island will make a tremendous difference for us. And dealing with the LNG plants, making a deal with, if it goes, making a deal with the Petronas plant over on Lelu. That kind of, I'd rather our staff spend their time doing that. So I'm not opposed to this amendment. I'm not going to vote against this amendment. It's like voting against motherhood. But I just want to caution everybody that you can vote for motherhood, but you got to make sure that you're looking after your irons in the fire now, and not sweat the little stuff and ignore the big stuff, right? You've got to go after the big stuff. We've got to continue to do that. So I don't think that means that we don't look at this. There's low-hanging fruit. Let's catch them. But I think we really need to continue along with trying to get rid of Watson Island, put it into productive capacity so that we can get a decent taxation structure out there. We have to, get a deal with Petronas. We have to get a gold plan into place. And we have to look after whatever's going on with Exxon, and those are huge, and we don't have a lot of staff. So I'll vote in favor of this because I think it's pretty much of a motherhood thing, but I really, where my heart is, and council should know this, where my heart is pursuing those harder to get, longer term things that are going to pay big dividends for this community. And I think that's where we need to have our staff put their efforts. If we had way more staff, then I might not be too concerned. But my concern is that we not defer staff from the bigger projects in order to look after maybe some of the things that you've mentioned, which aren't those aren't bad things. But I'm hoping that we keep our eye on the ball that has been set out for us, the plan that's been set out for us, that we've set ourselves out. We've talked about the big stuff that's really going to make a difference to these communities. If we don't get a decent deal with Petronas, we're going to be having all the workers living here 4 years from now, and we're not going to have anything more but a housing headache. We need to have some taxation from Petronas. They need to pay for the infrastructure that they're going to be using. That is where I would like to see our staff angle some of their time at, right? And that is going to make a huge difference, I think, in the end to our quality of life in this community, including the amount of taxation. So, sorry, I'm not feeling good. I probably repeated myself 7,000 times, but I want to make sure that everybody knows where I think our direction should go.
Councillor Canadian.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. I'm in agreement too. The $38 doesn't seem like much, but when you figure out now they're putting up hydro, putting up gas, everything else, we have seniors living on one floor, etc. No, let's try and keep it down and find another way. We've got to. Thank you.
This is only my second budget, but as I recall, last budget, we put the taxes up $19.95. That's half of what we're proposing this year. And when you add them both together, along with the 5% increase that seems to keep coming on utilities and everything, any option to hold the line or lower the taxes, I'm worth looking at. You know, getting back to the big projects, they are being worked on. Staff is doing a phenomenal job with the number of people they have. You know, Bob, Rory, Corinne, all of them. Richard, you know, yes, they need more help. I'd be the first to dip into the pot and pull somebody out to give them help. But we need to concentrate on the day-to-day issues too. We keep looking at this pie in the sky, the mill's going to open, potash is coming, now it's LNG. If it doesn't come, we still have to deal with the motherhood issues, as Joy says. You know, we keep, if this all happens, great, and we're going to have to hit the ground running, and we are to a degree. But, you know, we're probably farther ahead of the curve than most cities with these mega projects coming, and we've been dealing with them. But, you know, it's the little things. You know, I agree. I don't particularly like selling city property to speculators, but right now that city property is generating zero. Even an empty lot that somebody else owns is going to be generating some money, and we have always put conditions that they have to develop within X number of years and that. Well, you know, we can sell city property, and if people aren't speculating but are seriously, truly want to build a house, they'll do it within 2 years. And then we've got more revenue coming in. But we've got to start, you know, I've been here long enough to, how many times is the mill going to start? Then potash came along. Now LNG. You know, maybe I'm jaded a bit. I'm hoping LNG goes ahead. You know, everyone will benefit in the city. And I really think staff is doing a good job of being on top of that. You know, yes, getting them to look at something else, you know, maybe that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I don't know. But, it's something we've got to look at. It's the nickels and dimes that add up to dollars. And, you know, it's just something we've got to look under every nook and cranny to get more money for this town. And if the big projects come along, it's, you know, it's a half-decent lottery ticket we've bought into. But all the small stuff, we've got to look at it too.
Okay, so we have a amendment on the floor. Is there any other discussion about the revenue growth strategy report? That perhaps maybe won't put a time frame. Like, do you want that aggressive time frame, or did you want to?
My suggestion was that as soon as we can conclude, I know we have to do quite a few budget meetings between now and I think May 15th is the date we have to have final adoption, so I think that the following meeting after that would be, I hope that's reasonable for staff.
So sometime in May, end of May type of thing? Okay. Mr. Mandrake, can you read out what the amendment, how you had written?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. I have moved by Councillor Moreau and seconded by Councillor Cunningham that Council direct staff to incorporate the recommended mill rate increase of 2% into the 2015 5-year financial plan bylaw and related 2015 property tax bylaw, and that Council approve the recommendation to fund the remaining community enhancement grant requests to the levels specified in attachment B already incorporated into the 2015 budget, with the following amendment as moved by Councillor Moreau and seconded by Councillor Randhawa, that staff be directed to develop a revenue growth strategy and present to Council on alternatives for the City of Prince Rupert to bring in possible additional revenues and revenue streams by the end of May 2015.
So the only, I guess, correction is I separated the recommendation into two. So I left the community enhancement grant as a separate recommendation. So it's just the first portion of what you wrote there. Councillor Kennedy?
I don't know if it's such a good idea to slow down or halt the budget process for this, because even if we come up with some ideas, we've only got 4 to 6 weeks. And if we do fire sales to try and rename something or something like that, it's not going to be worthwhile. My suggestion is we direct staff to do this, but not hold up the budget if Councillor Moreau's willing to do a friendly amendment. But I just can't see holding up, if we're going to hold up the budget until staff comes up with some ideas, and then what are we going to do with the ideas? Then we got to go out and try and raise some money from them. I don't know where, is that was the intent of this amendment, to stop or hold up the budget?
Sorry, Councillor Cunningham, there might have been some misunderstanding. What I was hoping to direct staff is that the report would come back to us at the following meeting after we're done our budget deliberations this year. So not to hold up the current year's budget.
Okay, I got no problem with that.
Okay, so we're just on the amendment, so maybe if there's no further discussion, we'll vote on the amendment, which is the growth strategy, which will return us to the main motion. Question? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So now we're back in the main motion, which is about the 2% mill increase, and with an amendment. So is there any discussion regarding the direction to staff? Councillor Thorkelson?
I was wondering, we increased the, we had to increase the mill rate by 0.02%, is that correct? Or just 0.2%, I can't remember what it was in your original, and it's because we received downwards change in assessment of $4 million. I was wondering if you could let us know what the $4 million, if we could find out what the $4 million downwards change in assessment was.
Do you mean in taxes?
It says staff received the final property assessment values on March 30th. The result is a downward change in assessment of $4 million.
Majority of the downward change was with the residential class.
Councillor Cunningham?
One thing that I find rather interesting, our taxes are going to go up, yet our mill rate's dropping 1 point. Like we're putting up the mill rate 2%, but the 2014 municipal mill rate was 8.42, and the proposed mill rate this time is 7.38. Is that because of an increase in the assessed values of the properties? So even though we're collecting more taxes, our mill rate has dropped.
It's exactly right. It's because the assessed values have increased. So we adjust the mill rate down to bring us the same amount of taxation that we received last year, and then we increase it from there in order to cover our budget shortfall.
Other comments? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor with an amendment, and Councillor Thorkelson?
Yeah, I heard you say that it's been broken into two. So what we're just doing is recommending the mill rate increase of 2%, but not approving the recommendation to fund the remaining community enhancement grants, the level specified. So if we in fact agree to raise the have a 2% increase in the mill rate, if we agree to that, which is based on a budget which is giving the community partners the $1.377 million for community partners, then if we raise or lower the levels that we're giving to the community partners, will no longer have a balanced budget. We'll either be running a deficit or a profit. So I was wondering why the separation. If I had understood you correctly, talking to Mr. Mandrick, you said we're only going to deal with the first one, and then the amendment that Councillor Moreau made was to the first recommendation, and that we aren't having the second recommendation as part of the motion. Is that correct? I'm sorry,
No, that was
I'm so
correct.
confusing.
And, no, I did that just because the way I read it, sorry, was that there was 2 recommendations. And then now that I'm reading it again, there's an and there, so I think those were meant to be both together. So at this juncture, Mr. Mandrick, how would we go about being able to consider both items with the motion and the amendment on the floor at the moment?
Mr. Mayor, as per my dissertation earlier, you would likely want to verbiage put it that way. So you'd want it to roll out with the recommendation of the amendment and then the continuation of the recommendation to fund the remaining community enhancement grant requests.
Yes. So would that be okay with the mover and the seconder? Which was, I think, Councilor Moran, seconder was Councilor Cunningham.
I was wondering if it would just be easier to table this discussion for a minute, deal with another motion, and come back and redo this one. I'm not too sure about the procedure of this, but let's try to make something easier.
Ms. Baumann?
The reason that it was separated out is the budget would actually have the $1.377 million in there. And the second resolution is to actually identify how much would be going to each and every single individual organization that had applied for the $1.377 million.
Okay, so it doesn't affect it. Okay, that's just making sure I was reading that right. So there isn't a effect there. So we can still, we'll just finish off this motion as amended, and if there's any other further discussion about the 2%. Councilor Thorkelson?
I just want to say that when people talk about hydro going up, went up for the city too. We didn't get an exemption. Municipality didn't get an exemption for hydro, so if hydro is going up by 6%, that means our costs in hydro are going up by 6%, you know. So I think that I've always thought, and I want to say that people should build into their budgets an idea that you have to have a cost of living increase on your taxes because the city has to manage a cost of living increase to take care of ourselves. And so people should be budgeting for a cost of living increase in their taxes. The same way as you budget a cost of living increase in the BC Hydro. BC Hydro didn't come and ask for your opinion, as far as I know. They didn't come knocking on my door and ask me for my opinion on whether I think rates should go up or go down. And, you know, the council asks those questions because we have control over our expenditures. But when our expenditures are as low as they are now, I mean, we can't cut unless we now start cutting services. We can't cut anymore unless we radically decide to change the structure of the city. And so I think that in this day and age, 1.5% or 2% is what the cost of living increase is, and it's across the board. It impacts the city. The city is not immune to what the cost of living is. And so I think that a 1.5% to 2% in this day and age is something that everybody should be looking at in looking at as a matter of course every year. Just the same thing as when I do my household budget. I figure my hydro is going to go up, my phone probably is going to go up, my food costs are likely going to go up, and I budget for that when I'm looking at my overall budget, whether I think I'm going to go on holidays next year. And taxes are part of that increase that I have to budget for because I know that the city has to budget for an increase. Unless we can find other things to tax, or unless, as you know, Councillor Moreau was suggesting, that we find some novel way of raising money. But again, that's only probably going to be available to us once or twice. You can't rename the Civic Center every year. I mean, maybe we could. Maybe that would be a double novel way of doing things. But I do want to point out that there are a number of ways, and I think in the last taxation budget that went out, we put an explanation in the budget, or in the taxation notice, of different things that you can do. So if you're a senior citizen, you can take out a deferment on your tax. And so if you cannot pay all of your tax, the provincial government pays your tax for you. And then when you pass away and your estate is sold, your house is sold, and the provincial government gets their taxes back because they've paid them to you. And that is something that's up for every homeowner. A residential homeowner who's a senior, and also people with disabilities. There's a whole number of things that were out, and I can't remember, and I should have asked. Maybe Mrs. Bauman or Mr. Long will remember what the list is of different grants and different ways that people can do it if they really are desperate and can't really finding that they can't afford the taxes. But there was a whole list that we sent out, and I can't quite remember what they all are now.
Councillor Cameron?
I think it's the city's duty to send that list out with the tax notices again. I noticed last year there was a lot of people that were, oh, well, we can do this or that. And, getting the information out so people can make a choice when they've been informed properly is good. There's a lot of people don't know what options are out there, and it would help again if we sent that. I don't know if we were planning on doing it or not, but if we're not, I think we should. I think it's quite good for people to know what their options are.
Any further discussion? Councillor Woodhull?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I still believe that we should wait for recommendation from the staff. If we can find any money, 200,000, but 2%, because lots of people are on fixed income, and I don't think even $38 will affect them. And lots of people on minimum wages, and it's already rents are up, and they can't afford. So I'm not in favor of increasing 2% at this moment. I think we should wait for a couple of meetings. We can find some money there. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, call question? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, next recommendation.
Your worship?
Oh, yes.
I know. I think if there was a low-hanging fruit that we could find between now and then, we can always amend this. This is what do we have to go through the changing process, the amending process to amend this if we found somebody dropped an extra $200,000 on our lap. What would be the process to amend this? What would we have to do?
Ms. Bowman?
Well, this is just direction in order to complete the financial plan bylaw and the property tax bylaw. So if $200,000 shows up between now and when I actually have the financial plan bylaw done, then I can change the recommendation or change the bylaw itself.
Councillor Mish?
I think with us starting fairly fresh here with basically five, including Councillor Cunningham, 5 out of the 7 new council since last year, I think that working forward into the next year is where we're going to start to, try and make a difference. I think this year was, basically taking the staff's recommendations and working as best as we could with it. And from now on, I think we really are going to be working strongly to try and make this every year better and better. And I think in the next year, we're going to see some potential changes in our town and some financial decisions, maybe investment decisions being made, which can drastically change this budget for us next year. And I think we just have to get through this one basically is with the least amount of impact as we can and work for the next year and just see what happens. And I will say that I did hear on the radio today that the Pacific Northern Gas is actually going down, so maybe we'll gain some money there this year.
Okay, so put a recommendation that council approve the recommendation to fund the remaining community enhancement grant requests to the level specified in attachment B, already incorporated into the 2015 budget. Moved by Councilor Kinney, second by Councilor Thorkelson. Okay, discussion. Councilor
Sorry, Councilor Kinney. I just had a quick question for Ms. Blondin relating to the regulatory requirements associated with the hotel tax transfer. I noticed that the amount requested from Tourism Prince Rupert is $80,000 less than what you've recommended, and I'm just wondering if that's because the regulatory requirement is we have to charge the full 2%, regardless of whether or not they want to use the entire allotment.
Anything that we receive from hotel tax has to get sent over to tourism, and we've basically budgeted based on the fact that we expect tax to be exactly the same from hotel, the 2%. If it's less, then we will only send over what we receive.
So just to clarify then, Ms. Blondin, if is it possible then, because they've requested $80,000 less this year, to reduce the hotel tax this year to only fund what the amount requested is?
Actually, I don't believe that tourism actually asked for the $160,000 on the amount requested. That's just what was, I believe that our finance manager just pulled over probably the $160,000 that was budgeted in 2014. So the actual amount that was received in 2014 was $220,000, and recognizing that we expect hotels to be at the same capacity as last year, we've left a request at, the amount funding of $220,000. It's an in and a straight out just from us.
Councilor Cunningham?
I don't have my notes for the meeting here, but I do recall Tourism Prince Rupert coming here and dropping the amount of grant they wanted, and a few people in the council chambers were quite surprised. But unfortunately, I don't have those notes with me. But it was considerable less than what they had asked for, so that's a line that we should look at. Oh, okay.
Yes, they had originally requested $70,000 for the Visitor Information Center, and then they changed the amount to $31,500, and we're recommending what they've changed it down to.
Okay, good. One question I have, when I believe that Corinne had said that the provision for later applicants is $8,408, and that could be considered for the homecoming. Would that have to be a separate discussion or amendment, or could that be put into this amendment?
Ms. Bowman?
You could by resolution allocate it over to them right away.
Councilor Cunningham?
I'd like to make that resolution then, that we give that $8,408 to the homecoming committee.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Cunningham, second by Councilor Kinney. Okay, we have an amendment on the floor. Councilor Thorkelson?
Well, I don't think that's an amendment that we need to make it we're just adopting this, and then so the others, so what you're doing, Councilor Cunningham, is you're reducing the provision for later applicants, and so we will have no money for any later applicants for the rest of the year. We'll have $408 for any other applicants for the rest of the year, without a report back from staff. And so I was wondering, is that the intent?
Okay, so the amendment then is to, I just want to get some clarification here, Ms. Bowman. So, do we have to pass this as an amendment, or could we just, as a council, decide to allocate some of that money at another time to them? But that stays there. If we do the amendment, that locks us into having to bring it there. Is that correct? So, Councilor Cunningham, I think I kind of agree with what Councilor Thorkelson is saying here, is that we can easily transfer as much as we need to the homecoming committee. But if we make it as an amendment, then we're taking all of that money for them, and this would give us more flexibility, because they might only need a certain amount, and then maybe we could then leave another certain amount to somebody else who would be coming to request some funding. So just a thought there.
Okay, I'll withdraw the resolution or motion then with the, we'll just discuss it later.
Is that okay with you, Councilor Kenny? So, just so we're all clear, I think Councilor Thickinson makes a great point there. Just, we can easily, that's the money we get left over, and they're like, but, so, Councilor Kenny.
But we're still going to be able to help them.
That's that decision we get to make together, and we know that we have somebody to work with on that. It just might not need to be $8,400 is all. So, do we have any more discussion around the actual proposed allocation? Okay, so could call question.
Question.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Okay, so we'll move down to item 12, reports, questions, and queries from members of council. Councilor Thickinson.
I just want to make a motion that staff report to us at the next meeting regarding the the homecoming costs at the Civic Center, and so we see what it may be necessary for us to help them, so it's not an ongoing thing.
Seconders? Second by Councilor Cunningham. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Other reports? Councilor Thickinson.
I just want to say that Mayor Brain, that you would like to, I don't know if you're planning to, but in your report, maybe you could summarize some of the housing, what's been going on with housing. And I just had brought into my office a number of the shore workers are housed at the Neptune, and the Neptune has given them everybody there a notice that they have to leave the premises by the 30th of April. So they've been given basically evacuation notices, and I think there's between 16 and 20 people there. Many of them came from the Elizabeth Apartments when they burnt down. But anyway, so that's another impact on another sense of urgency for our housing committee. But I was hoping that you would be able to report back on what's been going on.
Absolutely. So I'll give my report here. So we've, as a council, have partnered with the Prince Rupert Aboriginal Community Services Society in a housing initiative. Just last week on Tuesday, we called together over a dozen service organizations in the community to discuss what the needs of the community are. And so we kind of came up with a master list of all the things that are basically happening to people in the community: rental prices, the need for facilities for people in corrections and mental health and addiction, the need for facilities for seniors housing developments or affordable seniors housing developments, some that are subsidized, some that are ownership. We kind of came up with a master list of those needs, and then we grouped the needs together to see kind of what categories everything falls under to. And so where things are at now is the city and the Prince Rupert Community Aboriginal Services Society are going to launch a citywide campaign to quantify the needs. And so what that means is we want to go out and survey as many people as possible, particularly around housing, to see what exactly are the numbers on the ground here. How much affordable housing is necessary, how much assisted living units are needed, and to be able to quantify all of those needs in a very accurate but statistically relevant way. We have a statistician that we're working with to develop a survey that will be rigorous and kind of stand the test of StatsCan and those types of things, and so that we can plug that into our GO plan and be able to say to the government and that these are our housing needs as a community, and that we have the entire community working on this together. And so it's so that we can actually know, because right now people say something to the effect of, well, we need we need 50 units for seniors. And, you know, I don't disagree, but we really don't know if that's actually a number that's real or not. You know, it makes sense when you hear it from people, but we just really need to get accurate data. So we're working together as a community initiative, which we're going to be working with majority of the service organizations in the community to do this campaign, which we hope to have underway in May. And so I think this is the first time when there's been such a, you know, the city partnering with all these organizations to come around in such a way. So we're very excited about moving forward on that. Also, the Prince Rupert Community Aboriginal Services Society has some funding available through kind of a, I think it's a government type of provincial government project to do a pilot project in this community around housing. And it has some criteria around needing to be innovative. And so that's also a project that we're helping with as well to see if we can get some sort of housing project here happen in the community as well. So there's quite a lot going on with housing. We've definitely heard the variety of concerns from the public, and at one point we're going to be calling on the residents to be a part of this campaign because it's going to need quite a lot of volunteers. So people have been coming asking us whether or not they can help with housing, and absolutely you can, and we'll be definitely doing a major call out shortly around helping with that. So that's kind of where we're at with housing. And just a quick other update, myself and city manager, Mr. Long, went to Houston, Texas last week and met with the senior project development team of ExxonMobil, and we kind of got a better lay of the land where they're at and looking at the project, and got some new perspectives around the project on Lot 444, and we anticipate a public announcement coming within the next couple of months around the design of the site, because they've been debating whether or not they'll be on land or on shore, and so we'll have more clarity around which direction they're going to be moving in. And it was a very good meeting, and we look forward to continual productive conversations with the Exxon team. Other than that, that's my reports for now, and if there's any other reports from council. Okay, that being said then, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Okay, moves and seconded. All those in favor? Okay, meeting adjourned.